Hey guys, it's your girl DJ Sims and I'm here with DJ Limelight and welcome back to the Culture Podcast.
That's right, and today we've got a real special guest, someone that I've actually been speaking to quite a bit on the DMs because I feel like your story is real unique. You're so close to home, being from East London. He goes by the name of RIZWAN Javed, and this brother right here has gone, I'd say, viral and has hit the online stage, has hit television quite a lot recently. For number one, he's about to collect his MBE this month, which is amazing. Always nice to see a brother from the ends collecting an MBE. Secondly, and most importantly, it's come to light that you've saved 29 lives on the TfL, on the train lines in London. And for those who might be trying to get their head around what I'm talking about, we're talking about people that are potentially about to commit suicide, about to jump in front of a train. And the brother Rizwan has turned up. We're going to talk more about the scenarios, but general way to look at it, you've turned up, managed to talk to these people, individual cases, individual circumstances, situations, and managed to get them to not basically commit suicide, which is absolutely crazy. So, we're real honoured to have you up on the podcast today, man. I think he deserves a clap.
Yeah, you do.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's definitely a topic that's deep, definitely a topic that's quite emotional. But I think let's start off with the beginnings of RIZWAN Javed as a TfL worker. Even before that, actually, what was life like growing up in East London? Because you grew up in Leytonstone, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so East London, Leyton. For me, coming from East London, that's a challenge to your life already, beginning. But I kind of left school with dreams of going college and so forth, and I wanted to actually become a cricketer, as it happens. That went sideways.
Why did it go sideways?
Well, that's a podcast for another time. Basically went college. I think the people that I was surrounding myself with, college weren't really for me. So I kind of stepped out of that. Still looking for direction in life. Started working. I was probably the youngest person in the industry, in the printing industry at the time, trying to find my feet of making a living and support my family, really. And then that's where I feel like for me it got a bit tricky because I was just about 18, 19 years old and I was subject to bullying and harassment at work. And that kind of drove me crazy, being from an Asian background, I was unable to kind of speak to my parents about it and I kind of isolated myself in the process. So I felt crap, not able to kind of express yourself at the same time and then also not have anyone around you to speak to because you feel ashamed of your story. And then I kind of ventured out and you kind of do, and then I went into different courses to try and develop myself, build up my confidence again and find myself as a person. And then the railway knocked on the door, and here I am 10 years later.
Wow, so 10 years deep in TfL, man. That's a long time.
That is, yeah. So obviously you mentioned that before you started working with the TfL, you said that you experienced stuff at your previous job with bullying and stuff. So how did that mentally affect you and drive you? How did you manage to come away from that job and actually have the courage to be do you know what, enough is enough?
I mean, for me, it was difficult being young, being Asian, and I couldn't proudly, now we're talking, I couldn't do that because I felt not only was I subject to bullying and harassment in a career that I've kind of invested myself in, now I'm not able to get out of it because I don't know how to, because it's new to me, So it continued for about a year or two, to be fair, before I actually built the courage to do something about it because it was breaking me. I was going to sleep at night praying that I don't wake up in the morning, Wow. So it was deep. It was deep. But then eventually I built the courage, my surrounding people around me changed and gave me the ability to, stand up and think, do you know what, I'm going to do something about this. I eventually left the job, but at the time I was really run down, didn't know where to go, what direction to take in life, but I feel like everything happens for a reason. And that was my reason to maybe end up where I am today.
Yeah, and where you are today is, you work for TFL, you've been there for 10 years, 10 years strong, and it's come to light that you've saved 29 people's lives. So we want to talk more about that. You've obviously had a past where maybe you felt suicidal to some extent. Maybe it wasn't, only you can really tell us if it was an extreme case of it or whether it was just thoughts and you kind of just brushed it aside, but you were strong enough to overcome that. So I want to talk about the 29 cases, not one by one. We're not here to talk about people's individual cases, but let's talk about the first time you recall saving somebody's life from committing suicide on the trains, because that sounds wild in itself. It probably still feels and sounds quite wild to yourself even to have a think about that and to think, I actually changed somebody's life or prevented somebody from losing their life or taking their life.
Yeah. You like to think so. For me, during the railway, I'll be honest with you, I wasn't aware of any safeguarding issues, that took place on the railway. So I done my training, come back I got my home station, and then a couple of days later, I was told to attend the Samaritans training course. Basically, they didn't teach you and build your confidence of how to identify vulnerable people, take them to a point of safety. So I went on this course, come off it, and then only 2 days later, I was alone, and I was able to implement that training in real life. That individual was probably old enough to be my dad at the time, and I was having a conversation with him to take him to a point of safety because he no longer wanted to be here.
And who, without going into too much detail, what was his ethnicity? What was his circumstances?
So he was white male, middle age. Circumstances were family related. He done a stretch in prison, kind of repented from the reasons why he went to prison. On coming out, he wanted to make amends of everything that he's basically lost and sacrificed, and he came back to none of his family members being there. For him,
wow.
It was pretty crap.
So he lost his family members whilst he was in
jail. Exactly. So for coming back and potentially life would have changed 10 years. You give it a year and life changes so much. This individual was away for about 10 years. Coming back, not only has everything changed, but now he's lost all his loved ones that he potentially took for granted at a point. So for sitting there and speaking to this person, it was personal. I was there for about 2 hours, 2.5 hours. In the
one-to-one. Was there other people there? Or?
Not at the time, no, because it was closing of the station, and after a certain time, there's no trains running. So I just identified him because purely from the clothing that he was wearing, in line with the weather conditions. He was wearing shorts and t-shirt, and it was freezing cold, -2.
Mad.
So I just approached it, built small talk to get his attention, because originally he didn't want to speak to me. He didn't care who I was and what my purpose was there to do. But building that trust and showing a bit of empathy, just resonating with him and getting down to his level, and I genuinely done it from the bottom of my heart. For someone who knows what it feels to be in a crappy situation, now not only I was in a position to make a difference after attending the course, I was presented with a life scenario where I wanted to make a difference,
Yeah, that is honestly just insane, especially the fact that you were able to implement it so quickly after your course, which you probably didn't expect at all. But if we're going to go to the course now, what did you actually learn? How do you know and pick up different things? Like you mentioned the clothing he was wearing, so what signs are you taught if someone's going through something mentally? How do you pick that up?
So obvious one is facial expressions. It's easily identifiable. Type of clothing people wear in line with the weather conditions. People isolate themselves within the areas of wherever they are. The line of questioning as well, it could lead you to feel like something's wrong. And with every circumstance, it's just really important to build small talk, whether you talk about the weather or whether you're talking about a piece of garment someone's wearing. It's just breaking that intention and building that talk to somewhere, where they build the trust and the courage to open up to you. Because right now, there's nothing you could say to this person that's going to make them feel any worse than they already do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. But
That is.
29 cases. So the first person eventually decided not to do what they planned to do because of your input. That must have made you feel like a whole different person, because you sound like you had troubles of your own. You found this new job. You got used to and comfortable to being in that role. You seem to build some confidence. But having saved that first person's life, so to speak, how did that feel? And what was kind of like the response from other members of staff, people that knew, even the man himself?
I mean, it was rewarding, but emotional at the same time. So despite having this heartfelt conversation with this individual, upon getting sectioned or taken away from taken away with the emergency services, he hated me, because he had the intention to do something that night, and potentially I came in between it, and as much as I explained the reasoning for doing what I did to protect him, only he knows what he was going through. And I just pray that he's in a position where, he's getting on well with his life and achieving all his goals. And I think the emotional side to it, I try to spread awareness within my own household. I come from an Asian background, Muslim background, and within my peers at work as well, because not everyone's confident in having them conversations. And sharing them stories only inspires someone else to also do the same. So it created a platform of awareness, and I feel like that's how I've got over the emotional side myself.
Yeah. And then in terms of so when you've offered someone that help and you've gone over to them, you've made that small talk with them, you've kind of built that trust. So what happens after? Do they receive some sort of support after? You mentioned that, they got that person, was taken away and they must have received some sort of support. So what's that process? Are you in touch with anybody after, or does it go to somebody else?
So they will get sectioned, they'll be taken to an hospital where they get professional help. Additionally, there's Samaritans that you'd always advise them, signpost them to organizations that can provide that professional support. You don't really have an interaction with that individual again, and I think to some element it's a good thing, because then you'd be fixated. You wanna know about their journey. There's still sometimes that I think about all them individuals, but my way of overcoming it is praying for them, and I feel like I just pray from the bottom of my heart that they're achieving some amazing things out there. There was one individual, probably the same age at me at the time, who returned back a few weeks later, and she ran over and just gave me a hug and just thanked me for being there that night. And that was it was emotional. Words can't describe that. For that person was like family to me, and I pray she's achieving some great things as well.
It's interesting you mentioned religion. I feel like you're quite expressionate about being Muslim, coming from Islam. How much good does Islam have in terms of influence in not just your life, but the need to now pass greatness and good things and positivity into other people's lives, by always remembering that I'm a Muslim, I have to do the right thing? Because that's what it seems to me like. It seems to me like you're driven by the fact that your religion drives you to do better things. So how much has that played a part? Which I guess you're already going to tell me it does amazing things, but to put that into practice, how much has that affected your life day to day in terms of saving people's lives?
I think every religion, no matter what religion it is a foundation to your life. It's something for you to build upon. For me, it was personally my parents, and they've always embedded the religion in us, and that's why I think Islam and being Muslim is a way of life. They've been selfless individuals, helping your neighbors, helping strangers. They've never discriminated to anyone's color, religion, or background. And the beauty of having that from my mother and father, who are they're your icons, they're your role models when you're growing up, because you don't know nothing beyond that. And seeing them do it only inspires you to follow their footsteps. And I think religion, the upbringing, family is really important, and it all interlinks and it serves a purpose.
And how do your parents react to these stories? And even seeing you on TV talking about your job, like technically you're going to work, you're wearing a uniform, you're representing a company, you're serving a purpose for the public that go on transport, public transport. But for them to see you on national TV, for them to see you, you know, doing interviews, even like an interview like this and you talking about your job, I mean, how does that make your parents feel?
I mean, I hope it makes them proud. You know, it's probably a portion of their sort of way of life. And I mean, any parent would be proud, right, to see their child kind of expressing their name in this way, you know, because without them, I wouldn't be the person who I am. And I just trying to push myself forward and be a role model to generations to come. And it all starts from my parents. And I hope, you know, they probably will watch this because I'll send it to them when it comes out, you know. And my dad always, he's very proud because it gives them the ability and the confidence to share it within the community and celebrate, you know, because my child's done this, my child's done that. And my parents are like humble people, you know, they keep themselves to themselves. And I feel like as much as sharing this and celebrating this, within that is spreading awareness, you know. So, you know, may God keep them in good health and keep them happy.
Yeah, I feel like one thing on that point is one thing that isn't spoken about within the Asian community is mental health. It's almost a stigma. I feel like it's a taboo. It's not spoken about enough. Especially, I feel like Asian kids that are growing up, that are going through things. Obviously, you mentioned you've been through things. You found it hard to talk to anyone. But I feel like that comes from the fact that it is such a taboo. Mm-hmm. So with your experience and what you've done and how you're raising awareness now, how do you think that everyone can make a difference in this situation? How can everybody now be open enough to speak about mental health and suicide, because it is just frowned upon in our community?
I feel like, especially within our Asian community, in every community, I think we need to create platforms at home where if someone's going through something, they can approach you, whether it's your siblings, your mother, your father, because they're the people that actually, they're winning for you, they care for you, they don't want to see you fail in life. You know, being able to have that deep conversation, if you're subject to bullying, harassment at school, work or something, you should be able to come home and seek advice from your loved ones and not have that fear factor of I'm going to be judged or, you know, someone's going to think any less of me. I in fact think the opposite. I feel like you should share your story and be proud of it, because it's going to inspire someone tomorrow, and you know, it's going to become their coping mechanism to overcome what they're going through. And it's amazing because with me sharing my journey, the amount of people have reached out and said, you know, you've inspired me to make a difference, or you've inspired me to go make a difference in someone else's life. You know, so it's small things like that within our households that we can do to encourage our youngsters to kind of break them barriers and not be scared and have them open conversations. There's going to be an element of respect, that barrier where you can't fully express yourself. But I think as a parent living in this day and age, you need to not only be a parent figure, but also kind of that friend, that shoulder that someone could come and approach and have that conversation.
Yeah, I think relationships with your parents is like the biggest key in life, like for anyone. Like I've seen it with Sims when she was super young, and the way her mum and dad back her and support her ambitions and even her dreams. Like, I want to do this, and now she's living her dreams, she's doing it, and you know, active. Even for myself, when I was super young, like trying to get into DJing, my family didn't really understand it, but one thing I always say is like, my parents will always back it. Yeah. So they'll be like, oh, do you need a hand? Like I was trying to build a vocal booth in my first ever recording studio. My dad doesn't know what a vocal booth is, but he's saying, I'll come with you to Wix and we'll buy the equipment, like the materials you're gonna buy. I'll carry it for you. Yeah. And let's build it together. And having that backing at home makes a big difference. And unfortunately, not everybody is blessed to have parents or a support network at home, but I always encourage young people to find support networks. Yeah. And I also encourage elders that have experience and that have a place of comfort or have a place of security to help the next generation feel like they can be part of something, you know, embracing the next generation. I find a lot of elders try to push the youngers away when they see that, okay, that rather than embracing them, they might see it as, oh, that's a threat to my career, or that's a threat to my position. And I see it a lot with a lot of the older generation. I see a lot of bitterness, a lot of people kind of trying to protect their one little thing rather than opening their doors and saying, actually, I've got all of this experience in my brain and this knowledge. I need to share it to as many people as possible.
Exactly. I totally agree with you. I think there's no point having all that knowledge up there if you're not going to share it, because it's wasted. You know, you're not going to live forever. I think going back to your foundation of the family and doing these things, and I feel like technology, probably the best thing and the worst thing to happen to this world, you know, and coming away from that, just like you went and got them bits with your father, like doing them things away from technology, away from all of this, just having that human interaction with your siblings, your parents, you know, it makes a massive difference. Like, I feel like just being inspired by, just say, a role model you follow on social media, they're showing you this lifestyle that is, you know, they're probably involved in it, but however, it's not always happy and glory for them. You know, there's some element of struggles, battles that they're fighting, that they're not going to post their downfalls. It's all about the success.
But don't get it twisted. My dad's obsessed with WhatsApp. He's just everyone on WhatsApp.
Well, my dad as well, man. I'm telling you. He's just about got his head around to using them, but he just loves forwarding messages. But stuff like that, basics, just going, and those people that are in position of a large following or are role models, they need to influence the generations to come to make a positive impact, you know, because they're the future.
Yeah.
And I feel like if someone's looking up to you, as much as you need to sell your content, you know, you need to put your content out there for a following. Do it in a way where it inspires someone for a better tomorrow.
Yeah, that is actually a good point. I feel like as well, for people who don't have necessarily a support network in their home to talk to, I still think talking to someone, whether it's someone you don't even know, whether it's someone from a helpline, it's very underestimated of how much that can go, because I feel like when you talk to someone and let things out, it might be the difference of what they were going to do today and what, you know, 100%. They might have been planning to do tomorrow.
Our old saying, a problem shared is a problem halved. And honestly, when you're going through it yourself and you just openly express yourself, you feel that. Like me, you could be heated going through X, Y, and Z, but just sharing that problem with someone, you feel like you've just offloaded, you know, a bit of pressure. And I feel like whether it's a stranger, whether it's a loved one, be able to talk and express yourself, because it all starts with you acknowledging what's going on, sharing it. You might get advice. You might not even need the advice. You just need to, everything you've bottled up, you just need to release it. And that's the start to going in the right direction, and you shouldn't be ashamed of it.
So, you know, I wanted to talk to you about Untangled, because I find this real interesting that you've now started like almost like is it a charity, or is it a brand? Is it like a company that's obviously based around that support network? Tell us more about Untangled, bro.
So Untangled, when I found out I was getting an MBE, I thought I want to now take it on a wider scale and not just keep it railway specific. So me and my other half, we sat down, and prior to kind of it being announced and stuff, and we're like, I want to continue this. You know, I want to set up a podcast where I invite people that share their journey, their struggles that they're going through, because it's going to inspire someone who's going through something similar. You know, I feel like if we're honest with us, honest with each other, like you wake up in the morning and you're fighting a battle of some sort. It's how you deal with it is where you end up, and what differences you create from the person who's fighting a battle sat next to you. And being able to express that openly and honestly on a platform like this, it will only inspire others. And then I wanted to kind of reach out to schools, colleges, prisons, you know, share my story, and, you know, give them that mental health support and show them that it's okay not to be okay. And then I want to see where it goes from there onwards. I was looking into some sort of mental health sort of branding, and there's a game that I want to launch. I don't want to go too deep into it, but it's in the pipeline, and I'm kind of looking for the right backing in order to roll that out. And I feel like, do you know what, it will make a difference. And it's all these small things, and all you need is one person to follow that journey. If it affects one person positively, it's a job well done, right?
Yeah, that's really true. And one thing I wanted to touch on is obviously you've been awarded an MBE, which is just amazing, and you should be so proud of that. But you probably did not expect this to happen, especially you just going to practically your normal job day to day. You've done this amazing work almost whilst you're at work. You've just saved people's lives, and you've been awarded this MBE. So how did that actually feel for you to just wake up one day and you found out you're getting an MBE?
It was surreal, to be honest, and still was. I find myself struggling to digest it. But for me, it's just a way of life. Like I said previously, seeing my parents helping people randomly without anything in return, like they're selfless. And I was just following that journey and being in that situation, having the training, knowing what it feels like to have nothing or no energy around you. I just wanted to make a difference.
Yeah.
And I made a promise after the first intervention that as long as I'm within this area or within this profession, I was going to continue making a difference. And being able to be recognized for humanity, it's amazing, don't get me wrong, but I don't want to waste it here because it's now created a platform and it's created awareness on a wider scale. The fact that I've got people in different countries messaging me and they know my name, it's amazing. And I hope and I pray that I can continue to inspire others to make a difference, because there's only one of me.
Yeah.
Or if someone else joins that journey, that will only continue that pipeline, and there'll be loads of people, thousands, hundreds and thousands of people with that same intention of making a difference in someone else's life.
Yeah, definitely. But what was the process behind the MBE? Because obviously you haven't collected it as of yet.
Yeah.
By the time this comes out, you probably would have just collected it.
Yeah.
But like at this moment, you haven't collected it. So like, how did you get notified that you've now been awarded an MBE? So
I got a letter through the post and I was asleep. I'll be honest with you.
You thought it was a parking ticket?
Yeah, literally, like my sister and my mum come into my room and I just finished a night shift and they're standing at the head end of my bed and my sister's like, "You've got an important letter, you need to open it." I'm like, just let me sleep. Yeah.
How did they know it was important? Was it like
It's just the way it is, it's
like you
different.
Just know it's important.
It's different.
Yeah.
It's different to your standard letter.
You was getting sent back to
Bangladesh. Yeah. I thought it was going back. But it was literally, it was crazy. And then I was like, "Mum, you open it." So she opened it, just kind of read through it, and she's like, "Oh my God, you've been nominated for an MBE."
Wow.
And at that point, I was overwhelmed, half asleep. And I had to read that letter about 10 times to digest it. And it was a proud moment because, seeing my mum happy and my sister happy, it was like, there's no better feeling. Yeah. At that point, I received my MBE already.
The impact you're having on society is crazy. The impact you've had on your family is crazy. Do you get time to reflect on it yourself? Obviously, you said you read the letter back so many times, but like, do you ever sit back and just realize that actually me just going to work has had such an impact on people because of my intention?
You know what? It's hard to grasp that sometimes because it runs with you, and it's just been crazy. Ever since the new year, I don't think I've had time to wind down and reflect upon it. However, there's been occasions where I'm off and I'll be laying in bed just reading through the messages of people, and like, it's been such a positive response, and I feel like I would never in a million years think like someone in America or someone in Canada knows who Rizwan Javed is. But now they not only know who Rizwan Javed is, they're associating it with mental health, and it's given them the confidence to, kind of implement that sort of change within their areas, within their countries. And like in Pakistan, for example, they never speak about mental health. The suicide rates over there are ridiculous. But after this story went viral, they started researching about mental health, about suicide rates in the country.
Wow.
There was someone who posted an article of the research. So even they started to do stuff within their country to, make a difference. And mental health is one of them things. It's got no color, no religion, no background. The beauty of it is just showing humanity, and it doesn't cost you anything to be a nice person. So it all interlinks, and I feel like, I hope that I can continue making a difference on a wider scale, and just knowing someone wakes up tomorrow who's feeling a little bit better because of me, there's a lot of satisfaction in that, and a lot of reward, I think, that you could take back and continue that journey.
Yeah, that's crazy, bro. That's a nice way to kind of wrap up the conversation.
Yeah, honestly, you're doing like amazing things, and I feel like so many people who are even watching this are gonna hopefully feel like they can be more open. So keep doing what you're doing. It's amazing, and we really enjoyed having you.
When you get the MBE, can you come back and show us?
Yeah,
I'll bring it for you.
we can
honestly.
put it up there.
Yeah, that's fine.
No, don't let Sims hold the MBE. This girl will drop everything.
It's fine. It's
She
fine.
dropped my drink earlier. She'll drop the laptop. She'll drop your MBE through the gutter
Bless her.
E.
accidentally.
But you need to come back with your MBE.
Listen, Sims is inspiring people as well, so she can drop.
Nah,
You know,
you can wear his MBE.
that's it. Yeah, you can trial it out.
Oh,
That's
thank
amazing,
you.
bro. It's been
Yeah.
a pleasure catching up with you. This is something we've been speaking about doing for a hot minute as well, sitting down and talking. And it means a lot to me as well to have a young brother from the ends coming through and talking about something so positive, because I feel like we don't get to do that enough.
No, thank you so much for having me. I feel like we can all do our little bit to make a difference in somewhere else, so no one ever has to suffer in silence, you know. And I remember reading a quote back in the day that you could be standing next to someone who's fighting a battle you know nothing about. Just be kind.
Just be
you know?
kind, yeah.
And it hits home. It's simple as that.
Literally as simple as that, bro. And when you're ready with your podcast, myself and Sims are going to be featuring on that one too. You get me?
Definitely. I can't wait.
It's been a pleasure, my brother.
Thank you.
Thank you.